Hello and welcome to Ask LaunchPad, a podcast designed to tackle the career-related questions we hear most often in the LaunchPad at York St John University. My name is Matt, one of your careers advisors in residence, and joining me today is Sophie Philpott, Senior Careers Advisor and the newest member of the careers team at York St John. Welcome, Sophie.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So the question that I would love you to help me answer today is, I'm a final year student thinking about my career, where do I start? Now this is a question that has come up quite often in the past few months. So when students ask you that question, how do you begin answering that?
I think it's an interesting question because it can come from really different places. So it can sometimes come from I'm ready to start, I think I know where I want to go, how do I get there? But can, I think probably more often come from I'm ready to start, I've never thought about it, I have no idea what I want to do, I'm actually in my final year, my parents tell me I should apply for a job, I'm starting to panic.
I'll leave soon.
Yeah, what do I do next? And I think that both are completely valid, and I think it's probably more normal and common to not know what you want to do. I think my first starting point is to be reassuring about how normal that is.
Yeah.
But also at the same time being really honest about the fact that it's time to start thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's time to start doing some work. Let's acknowledge that unknown and come up with some really practical ways that we can start moving forward, so that you can feel more comfortable about what you don't know and what you are looking for. And my first questions are always about, who are you as a person?
Yeah. Because arguably nobody knows that better than you, to know what your interests are, what you're passionate about, again linking to passion like we talked about before.
And that's true, but they're some of the hardest questions to answer.
Yeah.
Because it involves self-reflection and honesty, and they're really painful at times, or challenging or scary, or sometimes mean that you have to understand what you can't do even if you want to do it. So it's really, they are big scary questions, but hopefully to do it in a supported conversation with a careers advisor is more reassuring than just being like wished good luck and given a load of list of jobs to go and choose from.
Exactly, because that's not useful. I remember thinking back to, I think I mentioned in a previous episode, was my careers advisor at school. He had a leather jacket and a lever arch file full of careers, and it was sort of, yeah, exactly. And it was sort of, right, pick one and go for it. And the careers in that portfolio didn't interest me at all. I wasn't passionate about those sort of things, and it left me really confused about where I wanted to go, what the next stage would be.
I think careers advice has really shifted and changed because the world has really shifted and changed.
Yeah. Like
it used to be that you finished school or finished uni and you picked a job and it was like, well, here's my career, I do this until I retire. And that's just not true anymore. Like, there's research that is showing that the number of careers that people have is just really developing. So it used to be you had that one career, but now I think the research suggests that current graduates are going to have up to 7 careers.
Yes.
So not jobs, but careers, because it's less about that loyalty to an organisation or a type of role, and it's more about who you are, what are you passionate about, what are your priorities, what needs do you have, and the fact that those change in your life. So being able to be self-aware and honest and have those reflection skills, they're your lifelong careers skills.
Yes. Because
then you can adjust and change to what situation you're currently in.
I think I'm on my either second or third career at the moment. I think you're right in terms of priorities do change. The landscape around you does change. And I think your interests change as well. And I think potentially you could start a career or start a job that at that time you feel is the best thing for you based on your own circumstances. Yeah. But just through changes, you might think, actually, I've outgrown this, or I'm not really interested in this area anymore. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I think I'm on, it depends on how you count. And there's always going to be some blurred edges, but I think I'm on my third career. And I thought I knew what I wanted to do when I finished my degree. I'm a psychology graduate, and I thought I wanted to go into sort of support work for people with disabilities and learning difficulties and things. So I did that and I loved it. I really enjoyed it. And then had some personal circumstances that affected my family and me, and that it meant that I found that the energy that I had to deal with it professionally really changed and shifted. So I could technically do it. I had skills, I had experience, I had the ability, but actually I wasn't as comfortable doing it anymore, and I found it more stressful, and I found it more upsetting that I couldn't change the entire world and change the whole system and make it better for everybody. And so I realised that actually to have a bigger impact meant moving jobs.
Yeah.
And for it to be better for me. And then more recently and less drastically, and more likely for other people, I've realised that I really like strategy. And I like data, and I like impact. I've always liked numbers. I'm a psychology graduate that did a qualitative research project, but actually like statistics. I really like the fact that when you write good strategy or you write good policy, you make a big impact on many people.
Yeah.
But if you'd have told Sophie of 10 years ago that, I'd have laughed in your face.
Yes, exactly.
Because it just wasn't who I was. I was like, I don't want to be one of those.
Yes.
Whereas now I'm like, I don't have to be like the ones I've already seen that work in middle management.
Yes.
I can be the version of that I think will make a difference.
Yes. And also, if you're passionate about statistics and passionate about data, me, for example, working with you, I've become more passionate about and interested in those things because you're so interested in it, and therefore that can transfer to other people as well.
It's because they're really useful.
Yeah, okay. All right. I understand that now. But it's really, really interesting, and like you say, the landscape changing, your interest changes. And one thing that I always say to students, it's really useful tool actually, it comes from the Psychology for Success by Alison and David Price, and it's the Flourish model. So when we say to students, okay, if we don't think of it as a career in particular or a role in particular, if you're a bit unsure, let's think about the things around you. So things like, Flourish, the Flourish model, for example, stands for friends, location, occupation, usual work environment, relatives, income, spare time, and health. Now, these are considerations that you should or could think about when thinking about the future. What is important to you? So, for example, for one person, having being able to work from home or in a certain location might be key because they've got, responsibilities with family or with their situation. It could be that income is a real driver for some people. Now, I was speaking to a student this week, actually, who said quite embarrassed that income and success and professional image was important to him, as if it was a naughty or bad word. It's just what your drivers are. It's just what spurs you on.
And it's really human.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's fine. I think what's really nice about our role is that and I say this with all the kindness in the world, I really don't care what a student decides. What I'm really passionate about is that it's a really informed decision.
Yeah.
So, like, going back to what we were saying earlier on about how, like, self-reflection can be quite uncomfortable, but it's really imperative. Blending that with really good decision-making skills, like being able to make an informed decision, something that's really robust, is really powerful. So using something like Flourish and being aware of it can really help understand what a good decision is.
Absolutely. And ultimately, you're going to feel more confident, the fact that you've considered these things, instead of going ip-dip-do for whatever careers you're thinking of.
Yeah, and there is something about serendipity and being ready to say yes to opportunity and seeing what's in front of you, but you have to be ready for it.
Yes, exactly.
You can't just expect it to come up in front of you.
Exactly.
So you have to know what your limitations are.
Yeah.
So, like, working out where you're comfortable living and how flexible you are with that, and that's different for everybody, and I really don't mind what the answer is, but knowing, like, what's your minimum rent, how much money do you need to pay for bills, what's your food outgoings?
Yes.
Does the job that you're really passionate about pay enough money for you to achieve that?
Yeah. Is it a match?
Yeah. And it might be that you're like, my version of success, and that's a different question, is talking to students about what their version of success looks like.
Yes, I love that question, by the way.
My version of success as a student might look like doing particular skills or making a difference or earning loads of money or being in charge of lots of other people. And they're all completely valid, but they all come with different salaries depending on what job you're doing and what sector you're in.
Yeah.
So you need to know what your minimum is so that you're not spending time applying for jobs that you can't actually do.
Yeah. I want students to figure that out. And of course we can support with that. They can come and speak to us about that. They can use Flourish, as I've just mentioned, to start thinking about those decisions and those factors. So students might have an idea about what success looks like for them or what factors they should consider. Where can they look for ideas for roles that could fit in with those things?
So anybody that's ever spoken to me for more than 5 minutes knows that Prospects is my favourite website. And I like to normally clarify that I mean work-related website, but...
In life.
No, Prospects is my favourite work-related website because it's independent and it's written by careers advisors and it's a lot of the information on it's peer-reviewed. Just find that if you Google stuff like, how can I become I can't think of a job title now.
Veterinary surgeon.
How do I become a veterinary surgeon? You could get you get information back from Google that is often overwhelming, and it's hard to know how viable and reliable it is. So do you end up reading a website for ages, and then it turns out that it's for a company based in New Zealand and their training practices are really different to ours?
Yeah.
Or are you interested in a job in sales, and all you get back is sales websites trying to sell you something rather than actual information? And it's really overwhelming and frustrating.
It is. And also it's written usually by people or parties that are invested in that area. So, for example, yes, to be a veterinary surgeon, you're going to come across some quite uncomfortable situations where you might have to be resilient in terms of working with animals and pets. Now, you might know that, okay? But it might not say that on the website, that those are the skills that are required.
Yeah. And I think that if you don't have a job title to search, you can very reasonably fall into the Google of, what can I do with a psychology degree?
Yes, that's a way to limit your options, isn't it?
But it's also like, it feels like it, and then you get so much information back that you can't even read it. And I think my response would tend to be, shut my browser down and go away. Yeah. Or go back onto Twitter.
Problem not solved.
Yeah. So I like prospects because the information is trustworthy and it's categorised and organised. There is so much information on there that I think it is easy to feel overwhelmed the first time you look at it. So learning how to use prospects is part of it. But it's even got a what can I do with my degree section. So you can go there and it can give you job titles that are like a direct step forward from your degree, or you've taken a step sideways and then stepped forward, so it's like a slightly broader. You've got a couple of lists of job titles, but it's also got a reminder on there that so many employers will recruit from any degree background because what they're looking for is transferable skills.
Yes.
So your degree gives you ability to research, depth of knowledge, forming a solid argument, bringing together rationales. And it also gives you a specialist subject knowledge, but all those other skills can be useful so many different places. So there are some careers where a particular degree or a particular master's is crucial, but it's about reminding yourself that you've got loads of transferable skills. So it comes back to the question we started with, which is who are you and what you're interested in and what do you want to do.
Absolutely.
I also really like the job profiles on prospects.
Yes.
So they have, I think, 500 job profiles.
It's a lot, yeah.
It's again, we'll go back to the word overwhelming, but you just look at the ones, working out what what you want your career to be isn't about finding a job and going for it for most people. It's about taking an overwhelming list of things and working out how to get rid of stuff so you've got a much more manageable set of choices.
Yeah.
So job profiles are great for that because they give you an introduction, they give you duties, salaries.
My favourite bit is the what to expect section.
Me too.
So it's the good bits and the bad bits, the warts and all, information that you need to know about that career or that role before you decide whether it's for you or not.
It's that bit where some people will go, oh yeah, of course, and other people will go, oh no.
Yes.
There's great decision-making tools.
Yes. And it's that section where we mentioned about veterinary surgeons, about the resilience you might need and how it's difficult. That's the section it would be in. That's what it's like to be in that role. So that's my favourite section on prospects. So once you've had a look at, or once you've had a think about who you are, what you're looking for, and you've maybe had a look on prospects about what jobs actually exist and what you could do and if those match up, we then think about, okay, where are the jobs? Where are the jobs at?
Yeah.
Where are they? Now, there are some that I speak to students about. So, for example, there's our careers portal, LaunchPad Online, which is great, especially if you're looking around locally around York and Yorkshire, a great place to start in terms of seeing what jobs are available. I say websites like Milk Round, Target Jobs, Grad Cracker, if you're a STEM student, could be useful. One particular search engine that I really like is an app, actually. It's called Debut. Now, if you've not heard of Debut before, imagine Tinder, but for searching for jobs, without the swiping left or right. Okay? So you download Debut, you set up an account, and you're required to complete 3 psychometric tests. Now, anybody who's thinking of applying for a graduate scheme should consider practicing for psychometric tests, practicing for that stage. So you'll complete 3 psychometric tests. Now, those results, with your permission, are linked to your profile. So there are also, in the app, companies that also use Debut from the back end, so they can see who has set up a profile and what their results are from psychometric tests. Now, if they like the sound of you based on the results of your psychometric test, they can approach you and say, actually, you've succeeded in the test that we use. All the companies on the app use the same psychometric test, so you're not doing tests for each individual company. There are companies such as Barclays, EY, Siemens, Bloomberg, Kia, Bosch, and there's a really interesting position with Apple Music and Shazam, which is on there as well. And basically they can approach you and you've almost skipped the psychometric stage for that organisation because you've already completed it on the app. Are there any sort of go-to place that you would suggest students go to?
My other favourite part of Prospects on the job profiles is that it has a list of key employers and job search sites, because I think all of us have had an experience where we've been on Indeed and we've searched for something and we found 50 sales jobs that we weren't looking for.
Yeah.
And that's really normal. Indeed's a great website, but learning to filter it to just your needs is quite a challenge. If you go to a job profile on Prospects, it will have a list of key employers and websites that are related to that area. So you can go and you can really just explore what jobs are advertised. I saw one today with a student which was museumjobs.com. So if you're interested in working in museums, it's a great place where you can just see what's being advertised. And you can look at jobs that maybe are for in 10 years' time and work out what gaps you've got in your CV that you need to be working on now to get there.
Yeah.
But you can also just see if there's any jobs you could apply for right now.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, really helpful and helps minimise that kind of trawling through jobs that you're not interested in, using specific sites. And then also we've got a partnership with Grad Intelligence, where if you want to have a look at your here, you can go and have a look at your higher education achievement record.
Yes, well remembered.
Thank you.
We've also got a podcast on here, actually.
Oh, have you? Oh, no, have we?
Yes, we have. Yeah, we have.
I'm too new. But if you go to Grad Intelligence and sign up for your profile, you can see you're here, which means you can kind of get awareness of what you have built up at university. But you can do their psychometrics, and they have live jobs, and part of their role is matching graduates to the jobs that they've got on their website.
Yeah.
It's another place where you're not just going in cold, you're going in with a link and hopefully being contacted by jobs that are relevant to you and what your interests and skills are.
Yeah. But in short, we know some stuff about careers.
I don't know much about anything, but I'm really good at helping people work out what their questions are and then helping them work out where they want to look for their answers.
That's what I said. But so what I'd say is, in short, come and speak to us. So we're here, we're based in LaunchPad. Appointments are available. So if you are in the midst of thinking about this sort of stuff, making these decisions, just question yourself about what the next stage might be. Please come and speak to us.
It's really easy to get stuck in your own head thinking about these things and go in circles, or speak to people that have got a vested interest. I.e., mums are great at saying things like, you have to get a job.
Yeah.
And they're not wrong, but it's not always your space to be heard. So coming speaking to us often means me asking you the question why until you finally say, I don't know. And then I feel like I've achieved something. But having a supported conversation to help you work through that and to have somebody reflect back to you what you're saying can be really clarifying experience.
Yeah. And what I'd also say is there's no wrong path.
No.
And I think a lot of people, not even just students, a lot of people in general feel as though, well, what if I make the wrong decision? And what I'd say is there's a million different routes and paths to your success, and we might take the most straight and simple route. We might not know at the time if that's the most simple or complicated route, but we do what we can do, and we take what we can take, and we make decisions based on the research that we've done and where we are at that time. Sophie, you describe yourself, or have done previously, as an accidental careers advisor, which I can certainly relate to. What do you mean by that? I
don't know if I've ever thought, I really want to be a careers advisor, but I am one. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up, and that used to stress me out quite a lot. Become a lot more comfortable with it now because I'm far more aware of things like career planning models and theories.
Yes.
Which allows me to be more aware about where I am within a process. And I'm also more comfortable with the fact that it doesn't matter that I don't know, because what I'm doing is being proactive in my decision making.
Yes.
And my awareness of where I'm at. So I know where I'm at right now. I'm more aware of what my priorities are. I know where my strengths are. I'm aware of my weaknesses. I know which of my weaknesses I want to build up and which ones I'm just going to ignore because they're not relevant to what I'm trying to do. So I think I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up, but I'm now comfortable with that. So I've got a career that gives me kind of 10 years of working in something that's employability related-ish. And I think I've worked alongside careers teams since, I'm about to age myself, since 2008. I think I've worked at least alongside a careers team, but I didn't join a careers team until 2017. So I've done a lot of work that's relevant and transferable and has a real common theme of wanting to help people because I'm cheesy, but in a way that is practical and useful and functional.
Yes.
And so I'm accidentally a careers advisor because I am just about qualified and I have a lot of experience that's relevant, and I've been in a couple of positions where I've been able to see jobs advertised and know that they fit within kind of my flourish, my priorities, and my what I want to do. And it's meant I've been able to apply and take advantage of opportunities that suit me at that moment in time.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's next. No.
And I think when you came to York St John, I remember you saying about the fact at the time that you were here currently, that what we're working towards and what we're passionate about at an institution, you were also passionate about.
Yeah, I think the values of the institution that I work for, or the place that I work for, is incredibly important for me. And I've worked with people who feel similarly, and I work with people who are like, I just get my head down and crack on. And I really admire that, but it's not who I am as a person. So for me as an individual, without any judgment for anybody else, the values of the institution are sort of really linked to how fulfilled I feel and how stressed I feel at work. So I like the fact that about York St John, it's about nobody being left behind. It's about being a transformative experience for students. It's about making sure that people know what options they've got, and that doing a degree is a really exciting prospect. You still have to work on what you want to do with it, but that we're here to support you with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming to university is not just about your degree.
No.
It's about the experience and the fun as well.
And about the friends and learning how to... I mean, the reason you're asked to do teamwork at university is so that you can learn to work with people you don't like, because that's real.
That's work.
Yeah, that's real. So, obviously, nobody here included. No, but I think university is about having a safe space to explore loads of ideas that you don't know, because it's less risky, because you're still doing a degree that's your main interest. So it's a great chance for like volunteering and work placements, and using those to help you understand what you do and don't want to do in a way that isn't about committing full-time work to something that you really don't enjoy.
Exactly. I was speaking to a number of students recently, actually, over the past few weeks, who said they weren't sure what they wanted to do after university, so they're going to do a master's instead. What are your thoughts on that?
I hesitate because doing a master's can be amazing. It gives you that real kind of professionalisation of your knowledge and skills. It can really hone things like research skills. It can make you a specialist in an area. But to do one because you're not sure what else to do means that you run the risk of doing something that doesn't give you that specialism in an area that you're actually really passionate about, because you don't know what that area is.
Yes. So
for me, that's not great. I'm nervous. I don't want to ever criticise somebody's decision making because I don't understand how they got there. So it's not my place to judge that. But to do a master's because you don't know what else to do is risky.
You should feel, I feel, that you've made a good, considered decision that is going to benefit you moving forward. I think master's study is a big investment.
Of your time and your money and your energy.
Yes.
And if you don't know why you're doing it, how will you know if it was helpful?
Yeah. And I think when we speak to students and whether it's master's study or whether it's a plan that they've got in the future, we'll often ask why. Why? What are your thoughts around that? Why are you thinking that? And if you're confident and comfortable and you know the reason why you're doing something, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And we will support you 100%. If you're doing something because you're unsure or you feel that's the only option you have, I would say think about it again.
And come have a conversation with us.
Yeah.
Because we're not here to judge, but we are here to support with those conversations.
Yes.
I think a really big factor as well is that you do have access for most courses to a postgraduate master's loan.
Yeah.
But there's only one of those available for you.
Mm.
So once you've taken it, you can't have it for another one in a few years' time when you realise that there's a master's that you really want to do.
Yes.
So my anecdote about this is a friend of mine who is a careers advisor herself. Her daughter had that exact experience. She did a psychology undergraduate degree and then did a psychology master's that was quite broad because she wasn't quite sure what she wanted to do. She loved psychology. She wanted to kind of move forward in that area. So it kind of felt like it made sense. A couple of years later, she, after some work experience, realised that she was desperate to become a speech and language therapist, which includes a very specific master's that you must do to qualify. And so she had to self-fund a master's.
A second master's.
Very few of us have the finances to cough up $8,500.
Yeah.
Or $10,500.
Yeah.
So I couldn't do that. Don't have the money for that. So you then have to work and do savings. You can make it happen, but you have to. It's a very different set of options. I also think if you don't know what you want to do, picking a master's won't necessarily help you make that decision. I think work experience.
Yeah.
Getting paid work, learning more about yourself. If you've not had a lot of experience being paid to work, seeing how you react. How do you like being managed? How do you like to organise your day? What's the environment? Do the values of the organisation make a difference to how you work? Even if it means doing a job the way you think, well, I've really learned I don't want to do that. That's progress.
It is.
So I think there's an argument for that being a real helper in working out what you do and don't want to do.
What is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
I'm pleased you gave me a heads up before the podcast that you're asking me this, because my initial response is, I don't know. But actually, I think the one that I come back to regularly is this too shall pass. And I like it because it's about the good and the bad in life. So when things are difficult and challenging and I need to dig deep and find some resilience, even when I feel like I've run out, it's a reminder that this won't always be like this. It will change. So I can make it through to the next stage of whatever that change is. But it also keeps me grateful for the good things in life because they will also change. So it's about being aware and mindful about what I've got, but also knowing that I can make it to the next bit.
And for the final part of the podcast, I would like to bring your attention to Tara, who is the author of the Struggling Graduate blog that I came across a few weeks ago. And she describes the blog as an in-progress guide to surviving the real world. So she graduated from university in the summer of 2018, and she posted this February of the following year, so February 2019. And what she says is, so if you're freaking out because you don't have a job, don't. I've been there, and freaking out does not help at all. But what does help is strategy. Go at it full force, and when you hit a wall, turn around and find another way across. It's not always a straight line for everyone. Sometimes it's diagonal, horizontal. Some people even have to go backwards at some point. Never give up, and know that if you've made it through university, you can make it through anything. You're educated, tenacious, and ready to take on the world, even if you hit a few bumps on the way. Which I think is really powerful and considered.
I like it because it's reassuring and realistic.
Yes, which is what we're all about.
Yes.
Well, that's it. Thank you so much to Sophie for joining me today for the podcast. If you've got any questions about anything we've discussed today, you can find the careers team in the LaunchPad space in Holgate or by emailing careers@yorksj.ac.uk.